Howdy. So recently I stumbled across this indie survival game called Casualties Unknown. The YouTube algorithm randomly recommended me this video by Mixer Speaks. It's very good and gives you a pretty good idea of what this game is about. A link to the video will be in the description. I've played the game for several hours now and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. If the tagline of games like Dwarf Fortress is "losing is fun," then the tagline for this game is "dying horribly is traumatizing and I hate it, but for some reason I want to keep playing." I think this game's biggest strength is the ability to make you connect with the player character. This is done through the game's fantastic audio work and visual work, but mostly done by the game's special health system. As of the publishing of this video, the game is still in early access. And after playing the game extensively for the past few days, I have some feedback and suggestions to improve it. All of my feedback and suggestions are in line with what I believe the game's greatest strength to be, which is, again, making the player character feel like a real creature. Starting off, there's a few quality of life additions I'd like to see. There needs to be a pop-up confirmation checkbox whenever the player attempts to exit a run or close the game. I keep accidentally abandoning my run when I'm just trying to close a text box, and it's really frustrating. I'd also like the game to have multiple save files, so I can have multiple runs going at a time. Lastly, I don't like how you're locked into leaving the current layer when you reach the bottom. I'd like movement to still be available upon reaching the bottom of the layer so that you can move around and collect the last few things you need before you're ready to leave. And as for immediate quality of life fixes, that's honestly all I can think of. The game's already really polished. So let's move on to the more interesting stuff, like new content I want to see added to the game. Now I know this sounds insane, but I want there to be a breathing button. Personally, I would assign it to the control key. The idea is that pressing the button will cause you to inhale, and releasing it will cause you to exhale. This obviously allows you to hold your breath on command, which could be used to navigate through toxic gas or spores. If the experiment has a free hand, they'll visibly cover their nose and mouth. If you hold your breath for too long, the experiment's face will start turning blue, and eventually they'll pass out. The experiment will start coughing if they inhale something they shouldn't. They'll also occasionally cough up blood if they're affected by hemothorax. But holding your breath isn't the only thing you can do with the breathing button. By pressing and releasing the button in a controlled rhythm, you can control the experiment's breathing. Controlled breathing will lower your heart rate, your panic level, and your pain level. It can be done whenever the experiment is conscious, even during a minigame. By slowing your heart rate, you also slow the rate of bleeding. Finally, it should be noted that the experiment will breathe on their own, and you do not need to constantly manually breathe. The manual breathing button is only for holding your breath on command and adjusting the rate of breathing. The experiment will also instinctively hold their breath whenever their head is submerged in liquid. I kind of view the breathing button as something that's mostly optional, that only advanced players will take advantage of. Here's some new hazards I'd like to see. First up is fire, which I would honestly be surprised if it isn't already planned, considering there are campfires in the game right now. Both the player, enemies, and environment should have the ability to be set on fire. Fire would cause smoke, which the player could choke on. Different areas of the player's body can be set on fire, causing severe pain, skin, and muscle damage. Fire spreads across the body, just like infections, only it's much faster. If the player is on fire, they can put it out by submerging themselves in a non-flammable liquid, or by opening the health menu and playing a short minigame where you pat out the fire. Additionally, containers full of liquids can also be used to put out the fire in the health menu. With the addition of fire comes a reworking of how cauterization works. Currently, wounds can only be cauterized by using the plasma torch, but I think cauterization should be able to be done with any metal object as long as it's hot enough. For example, you could hold a wrench over a fire until it gets hot, and then open the health menu and use it to cauterize wounds. A cauterization minigame could also be added, where you have to balance cauterizing the wound with the amount of pain that it causes. Making use of controlled breathing can make the process a lot smoother. Another medical item I could see expanded upon is the sutures. They could have a minigame where the player has to stitch around the wound and then pull the string tight. As long as the minigame is still faster than applying dressing, there will still be an incentive to use the sutures over bandages. Another new hazard I'd like to see is Venom. Certain enemies could have a venomous bite or sting. Venom spreads from the point of injection towards the player's heart. Once it reaches their heart, it then spreads out equally throughout the entire body. Players can use tourniquets to stop the flow of venom, or use controlled breathing to slow it. As venom accumulates in the player's body, different effects occur. Low venom doses cause sluggishness in affected areas, and exhaustion if affecting the thorax. Medium doses cause paralysis in affected areas. And large venom dosage cause respiratory arrest if they reach the thorax. Finally, completing the new trio of horrible afflictions is parasites. Some parasites are like ticks, and they just get picked up by brushing against something. Other parasites are more aggressive and will actively try to attach to the player. Lastly, there are xenomorph-esque parasites that are directly injected into the player's body. Parasites can carry infections and can also apply various debuffs. Parasites also sap away stamina, water, and food. External parasites can be removed via a minigame similar to removing shrapnel. Just like with removing shrapnel, using tweezers is more effective. Internal parasites require special items, medications, or poison to kill. Drinking bleach will kill an internal parasite, but it will also probably kill you. Opposite of parasites are symbiotes. Symbiotes function identically to parasites, only they provide positive effects, though they still sap away stamina, water, and food. Just like with the xenomorph-esque internal parasites, there are also internal symbiotes. Effects could include preventing infections, providing venom immunity, or providing some sort of superpower. For example, while internal parasites will eventually grow big enough to rip themselves out of the player's body, internal symbiotes will grow into an extra arm or something. Speaking of arms, there should be some additions to the amputation system. First off would be visual changes to the player's walk cycle if they're missing a foot. Likewise, if they're missing an entire leg, then they'll have to crawl. To balance the severity of amputations, prosthetics could be introduced. Basic prosthetics, like peg legs, can be crafted somewhat easily, though you'll still have a limp and still be slower than you were when you had both of your legs. Likewise, basic hand prosthetics can restore the ability to hold items, but you will be unable to operate equipment with them. However, there is also advanced prosthetics. These restore full functionality to your missing limbs, allowing you to operate tools and move at normal speed. However, they require batteries. There's also super advanced prosthetics that are essentially cybernetic augmentations. These are far more effective than their fleshy counterpart, but require a lot of energy to maintain. You could replace your fleshy limbs with superior prosthetic ones, but you'd have to deal with the trauma and blood loss that comes from amputation. Currently, the game has no sort of meta progression between runs, and I'm not sure that would fit the game given its style of progression through knowledge. However, I think a narrative through line between runs would help the world feel more complete, because as of right now, each run is completely isolated from each other. And with that, that's everything I can think of to add to the game right now. As always, these are just my personal suggestions, and I encourage any discussion about how to improve the game. Finally, I'd like to give a message to the game's developer, Orsinex. Regardless of what you choose to implement and what to cut, I will be following your project in earnest. Know that you have my respect and admiration, as much as that's worth from a random person on the internet. As for everyone else, what do you think of my suggestions? I'd love to discuss them with you in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there.